Like the McCarthy-era witch hunts of the 1950s, your campaign of fear and repression is eating away at foundational values of our democracy. Back then, it took one voice, Attorney Joseph Welch, to cut through the hysteria with the simple question that marked the beginning of the end of that shameful era. He asked Senator McCarthy, have you no sense of decency? And I would ask you the same, Secretary Rubio. But you have shown through your words and your actions what the answer is. And I have to tell you directly and personally that I regret voting for you for Secretary of State.
He says, let me say this, I don't deport anybody, and I don't snatch anybody. The State Department does not have officers in the street snatching everybody. What I do is revoke visas. And it's very simple. A visa is not a right. It is a privilege. People apply for student visas to come into the United States and study. And if you tell me that you're coming to the United States to lead campus crusades, to take over libraries and try to burn down buildings and acts of violence, we're not going to give you a visa.
Is that what Ms. Hostork did?
We're not going to give you a visa.
Is that what she did? Come on, Mr. Secretary.
And every single one of these cases, the factors are different.
Senator,
the bottom line is, if you're coming here to stir up trouble on our campuses, we will deny you a visa. And if you have a visa,
First Amendment apply to
we'll revoke
living in the United States?
In a tense Senate hearing, Marco Rubio delivered a sharp response that completely turned the tables on Senator Chris Van Hollen. What started as an attempt by Van Hollen to stage a political moment quickly backfired. Van Hollen tried to frame the exchange in dramatic terms. He invoked the specter of McCarthyism, questioned Rubio's character, and even went so far as to say he regretted supporting Rubio's confirmation as Secretary of State. The moment seemed designed to put Rubio on the defensive and score political points in front of the cameras. But Rubio didn't take the bait. Instead, he pushed back firmly and methodically, flipping the narrative in the room. Rather than appearing rattled, he reframed the accusations and challenged the premise of Van Hollen's criticism. The atmosphere in the chamber shifted almost instantly. What was meant to be a theatrical takedown became something very different. Rubio's response cut through the performance and redirected the focus of the hearing. By the end of the exchange, the dramatic moment Van Hollen had hoped for had turned into a striking reversal, one that left the room noticeably quieter than before.
You may sit.
Well, first of all, your regret for voting for me confirms I'm doing a good job, based on what I know.
Well, that's just a flippant statement, Mr. Secretary.
Can I respond, Mr. Chairman?
You may.
I didn't ask.
Senator, please let the Secretary have
I'd be
the floor.
happy to, but then I can respond to his.
Your time's up, Senator, and willfully used, I might add. Your remarks do not represent the view of this committee.
Well, Mr.
Secretary, please.
Well, I'd like to. I can't respond to everything he said because much of these are untrue, but I'll go through a few. First of all, I'm actually very proud of the work we've done with USAID. For example, I don't regret cutting $10 million for male circumcisions in Mozambique. I don't know how that makes us stronger and more prosperous as a nation. I don't regret psychosocial support services.
I raised Sudan, Mr. Secretary.
Can I respond,
Senator, I'd ask you to suspend. You had 7 straight minutes of
I chose to use my time that way, Mr. Chairman. That's my right to use my time that way.
Secretary Rubio.
Well, I can go on. I mean, there's other things here. We spent $227,000 for Big Cat's YouTube channel from USAID. We spent $14 million for social cohesion in Mali, whatever the hell that means. So I can go on and on. I got the list here, and there's more. I didn't even bring the whole list. In the case of El Salvador, absolutely. Absolutely. We deported gang members, including the one you had a margarita with. And that guy is a human trafficker, and that guy is a gangbanger, and the evidence is going to be clear. In the days to come, you're going to see who you went to defend.
Senator,
I'm sorry,
please,
Mr. Chairman.
Secretary Rubio has the floor.
Mr. Chairman, he can't make unsubstantiated comments like that.
Secretary Rubio has the floor. You've had your time.
Secretary Rubio should take that testimony to the federal court of the United States because he hasn't done it under oath.
Here's another point, okay? There is a division in our government between the federal branch and the judicial branch. No judge in the judicial branch cannot tell me or the president how to conduct foreign policy. No judge can tell me how I have to outreach to a foreign partner or what I need to say to them. And if I do reach to that foreign partner and talk to them, I have under no obligation to share that with the judiciary branch. Just like a judge cannot order me to negotiate with a foreign minister of Russia, they cannot order me to negotiate with a foreign minister or the president of El Salvador. And if I did negotiate with them, which we have responded to them, and we've told them we've had communications with the president of El Salvador, I am under no obligation, under our division of powers in this country, and to share with the judicial branch how I conducted diplomacy of the United States. It would actually be counterproductive. If I started sharing with courts, or frankly, with the media, my conversations with foreign leaders and all of their details, no foreign leader would talk to me again. and we would break trust with them. So I have complied with every court order. What I won't comply with is an order to disclose what I'm saying and what we're talking about with a foreign leader, because then they won't talk to me. Diplomacy doesn't work that way. About the student visas, let me say this. I don't deport anybody, and I don't snatch anybody. The State Department does not have officers in the street snatching everybody. What I do is revoke visas. And it's very simple. A visa is not a right. It is a privilege. People apply for student visas to come into the United States and study. And if you tell me that you're coming to the United States to lead campus crusades, to take over libraries and try to burn down buildings and acts of violence, we're not going to give you a visa.
Is that what Ms. Ostork did?
We're not going to give you a visa.
Is that what she did? Come
that,
on, Mr. Secretary.
And every single
You're
one of
just
these
blowing
visas, the
smoke
factors
here
are
now.
different.
Senator,
the bottom line is, if you're
Senator,
coming here to stir up trouble on our campuses, we will deny you a visa. And if you
Does
have
the
a
First
visa
Amendment
and we find
apply
you,
to
we will
people
revoke
living in the United
and
States?
we're going to do more. There are more coming. We're going to continue to revoke the visas of people who are here as guests and are disrupting our higher education facilities. People are paying money. These kids pay money to go to school, and they have to walk
Writing
through a
an
bunch of
op-ed
lunatics
to the
who are
Tufts
here on student
newspapers
visas.
disrupting the
Simple
foreign
as
policy of the United
I want to
States.
do more. I hope we can
That's
find more of these people.
pathetic, Mr.
In fact, the other day, some guys led a riot. I forgot what university it was, and I asked, please, can you find the arrest records of all the people that were arrested at that riot at that campus? Because if any of them have a visa, we're going to revoke it.
I feel so much safer
All right,
when you lock
let's,
up people like Ms. Ostork, Mr. Secretary.
We've had enough time on this.
When the accusations started flying, claims of reckless spending cuts and abuse of authority, Marco Rubio didn't dodge them. Instead, he pointed straight to the numbers and the paper trail. He highlighted where taxpayer dollars had actually been going. Millions poured into overseas initiatives that most Americans had never even heard of, projects with polished names but murky outcomes. Rubio's point was blunt and easy to understand. If a program doesn't make the United States safer, stronger, or more prosperous, why should American taxpayers be paying for it? The debate then shifted to deportations. Chris Van Hollen argued that the administration had been treating certain individuals unfairly. Rubio responded with a distinction he wanted everyone in the room to hear clearly. He said he doesn't deport people, he revokes visas. And a visa, he reminded the committee, isn't a guaranteed right. It's a privilege granted under specific conditions. If someone enters the country claiming to study, but instead becomes involved in violent protests or supports extremist causes, that privilege can disappear. No theatrics, no hedging, just a firm line. Then the conversation moved to foreign policy and diplomacy. When questioned about his communications with international leaders, Rubio pushed back by drawing a constitutional boundary. Diplomacy, he argued, belongs to the executive branch. Courts don't run negotiations with foreign governments, and judges can't dictate how the Secretary of State conducts those conversations. And he also warned that exposing private diplomatic exchanges would damage trust with allies and weaken America's standing abroad. To him, that wasn't about defiance. It was about respecting the separation of powers built into the Constitution. What made the confrontation even more striking was the history between the two men. They had once served together in the Senate. Van Hollen had even voted in favor of confirming Rubio for the position he now held. So when Van Hollen publicly said he regretted that vote, the moment carried a personal edge. It wasn't just policy disagreement anymore. It felt like a political line being drawn. Rubio, however, didn't show any hesitation. For years, some critics had described him as overly careful or too polished. But in this setting, he appeared steady, direct, and entirely comfortable discussing foreign policy and national security, and that exchange reflected a larger debate happening across the country. One side views strict enforcement as harsh or unfair. The other sees enforcement as a basic responsibility of government. Rubio's position was straightforward. If someone violates the terms of a visa, that visa can be revoked. If taxpayer money is funding programs that don't clearly serve American interests, those programs should be reconsidered. And if sensitive diplomacy takes place behind closed doors, and that confidentiality must be protected. Van Hollen tried to frame the moment as a moral rebuke. Rubio answered with policy arguments, constitutional reasoning, and specific examples. Whether people agreed with him or not, one thing was clear by the end of the exchange. He didn't retreat, he didn't falter, and he didn't apologize. He held his ground and commanded the room.